Hey guys, this is Tyler. I'm going to talk a bit about my thoughts on England and how it relates to the EU. Okay, so presently, England, of course, they just left the EU. It was at the end of December, and they're officially on their own. And I've noticed that they've had a lot of problems. I was just watching some videos on YouTube the other day, yesterday on the weekend, and I've seen that it's just getting really chaotic. The government there is in full both lockdown and just control mode, and it's just insane, honestly. And I've done some videos on England before, and I've really presented ideals for people to think about and to possibly consider to leave the country, or at least approach things a little differently in their life there. And I know there's a lot of big tail guys in England, and some guys, they want to stay where they're born, what they call home. And I certainly understand if this is where you were raised and you still prefer, it makes sense. But I think many other guys want to get out. And firstly, I would really urge you guys to probably leave as soon as you can if possible. Where England is going, honestly, I don't have a good feeling on. And this is just my honest outlook. England's a lesson for any country, or for any guy, whether they're European or from any country. When they left the European Union, I think England was in such an extreme case that they left because I think they didn't think the EU was extreme enough with certain areas. And what's happening now, obviously, is that England doesn't even have to abide by any protocol of the EU. And so without the European Union protocol, they can do whatever they want. And that's basically what they're doing. They have nothing they have to follow or abide by. They're basically in the same position as a country like Australia. They're on their own. And they're certainly taking advantage of this. And I've just noticed is that England does not like free speech. I mean, they do not like free speech in expression of any dissidents. I used to think when I was younger that it was kind of like this, like in Eastern Europe, maybe like in Germanic sphere of countries. And then over the past few years, I've realized that England is actually the most suppressing often of free speech of almost any country in the world. And often the empires or the countries under their empire were under the same conditions or similar conditions until recently. And if they weren't following by these rules, leaders or individuals could get in big trouble. The old days of England are over, and they have been over. I think England now is on its last leg. It's decline, honestly. I'm not saying that England won't exist as a country in 20 or 50 years. I'm just saying the world power England that people knew like 100 years ago, 200 years ago, I think it's over, honestly. And I'm not saying they can't be a prosperous country. They can't have good things coming out of it. I just think that the England that people knew historically, even 50 years ago, 30 years ago, is gone. Right now is a sure sign to people that they may want to consider packing their bags and leaving, or putting a plan into place and maybe having a plan to leave within 3 or 5 years, whatever. Or at least putting some barriers in place just to protect yourself if you do stay in England, and have like redundancy in place, have insurance plan, have backup bank accounts, and maybe get another second residency somewhere, or even passport, just in case something goes wrong and you have to leave. I mean, England's like an island, so like Australia, it can be a little more tricky. And I'm sure at any point, if they want to, they can just shut down the tunnel that connects France and England, and not let people out that way to the mainland of Europe. England's situation is just a short warning to everyone out there who sees a powerful country that can end at any point, and it can be a completely different country within 50 years or even less. The power structures right now in England are operating in a way that's obviously in panic mode. They're in control mode. I've listened a lot to Sean Atwood. He has fabulous podcast, and he covers many of current day problems in England. This powerful people that run the country and the powerful government leaders and how they operate. And there's a lot of problems in this country. And I think England did one of the very best at concealing it and presenting in a way that looked very posh, looked very like good on the surface, but actually internally had huge amount of problems. And even when I look at innovation, I mean, nothing against the English, but in recent history, they haven't had a lot of innovation in many areas. When I think about it, a lot of their innovation, they've basically borrowed from other European nations like Germany or Scandinavia, maybe France, Southern Europe. Kind of shows what the country's been pushing. I'm not saying England couldn't have had more innovators, more scientists, more technologists, but this is where they've put their focus on social agendas. They've put focus on areas that produce little value for the country rather than focus on areas that really matter. Maybe put more emphasis on medicine and discovering breakthroughs in cancer research or something. Things like this that really are really impactful for the society, but instead focus on these kind of verbal agendas. I mean, I saw this recent case with this bare knuckle boxer, and this showcases just how the English are. They don't like free speech, free expression. This guy actually got banned by like the English Boxing Federation like 4 years ago, and because he made some commentary on how he was cutting weight to prepare for his weight class. This was in England, and the Professional Boxing Federation didn't like this. And they said, like, you're done. You can't compete for this federation anymore professionally. And then he had to go over into bare knuckle boxing at that point. And I saw this, and this just illustrates on a sports level how England is. And this is a prime example here that rather than focus more on actions, rather than focus on execution, which is actually what matters in life. Men are about execution and action, not about words. English are so focused on what someone's writing, on what someone's saying, rather than what's the execution here, game plan, and putting it into place. And that's obviously where problems are occurring. And we can see obviously that they're making a lot of rest right now in England, and I think it's going to get a lot worse in the next few years to come. And many people probably are in panic mode or are definitely in a very low mindset, but understand you can put a backup plan in place and you can certainly go somewhere else or at least optimize your current situation. I know I have a lot of English watchers here, viewers. Give me your feedback, everyone here, and thank you.